deviant. Even today, its lasting effects impact our relationships, our mental health, and our God-given human right to pleasure. This stops now. Your erotic energy is your power. Let's reclaim it.
All right. Welcome back. Hey, y'all. It is your host, Dr.TemaraToday, and we are here with another episode of the Black Jezebel podcast. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I have added a little bit of peanut butter whiskey to my coffee this morning because I've been so excited for this conversation. I mean, we probably been trying to record this episode for the last 2 years. I ain't going to lie. Huh?
Yeah.
It's been a journey. So just know that buckle up. This is going to be a great conversation. And I am here with a long friend of over 20 years. Oh my God, it's been so long. I'm talking to Moni Rose, Sunshine, and as we know from prep, Ash from the 17th. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Ashley.
Hi, I am Ashley Stevenson, dance movement therapist, all around multidisciplinary artist. I'm so happy to be here. Tamara is an amazing woman, and the woman that you see today was Tamara in high school. Tamara has
Girl,
all,
don't lie
baby,
to
look.
these people.
Baby, look, no. But let me tell you, my friend, you always had this vision of doing exactly this. I'm gonna have a show one day, y'all. I'm gonna call it Tomorrow Today, and here we are.
And it's just the beginning. Yeah,
Just the beginning.
just the beginning. We getting started, and so I'm so excited, to have people, along the journey that are experts in their field that I can invite and have these conversations with. And this season, y'all, we've been talking all about healing, and what better way to dive deeper into that conversation than talking about healing in the body, right? Ashley, so you started off saying that you are a body movement healing therapist. What is that? What is that? And what is that? And what does it look like?
All right. So, what I am called is a dance movement therapist.
Yes, dance movement.
So, technically, the definition is the psychotherapeutic use of movement, right? But let's break that down in layman's terms. Pretty much, this is healing that is body based and focused on interconnectivity and outer expressivity, right? So let's see, what would that look like in a dance space? Okay, so first of all, we would have to kind of even withdraw that word dance space because everybody doesn't dance. Let's call it what it is, right? But what we all do is move.
Yes.
What we all do is move. Change is basically one of the fundamental things of life because once you stop moving, that's fine. Might be a little lifeless, you know what I'm saying, right? So what we do on a daily basis in practice with others in our communities, um, basically is the foundation of our forward movement and our healing to get through because we don't necessarily get over boys and girls, but we get through, right? So these are just some fundamentals that we basically use in the healing process, which is just movement.
Yes, and we're going to get into it, y'all, because y'all know that one of the things that we do in this show is kind of debunk how respectability politics have shown up for us historically in the ways in which, in the tools that we've had to use in order to heal and be resilient. And so as you were speaking, Ashley, it made me think about kind of just the foundations of movement have always been instilled in our bloodlines, in our ancestry, when we think all the way back even before slavery, right? This was something that was ingrained in how we celebrated our spiritual connections to the Most High, right? This is how we moved our bodies to get through, pain and, and be able to, when we even think about slavery, right? The slaves only had one day where they were able to, not work, and that was on Sunday, right? And that was to, you know, not only go to the church house and be, you know, convinced to serve the white Jesus, but that's another conversation for another day. But also there was an opportunity for them to bring their traditions of movement and African dance to adapt to what that looked like. So you have and Ashley has been a dancer since I've known her in high school, right? Ashley has been a dancer since been probably right out of the womb, because you got pictures at 1, 2 years old in leotards, okay, twirling around.
And do.
Hello. And so I asked you how over the course of, you know, your life, and you've witnessed all of these different ebbs and flows, how dance has assisted you in your healing.
Oh my goodness. So it starts from young. Um, Basically, well, let's start with this. So we all know that dancing is basically just pattern body connections, right? So it starts from your community. That's pretty much, you know, how things always start. You know, children from a very young age you basically taping their subconscious for them, right? So with that being said, it was really ingrained in me very, very young to dance. My mother danced, you know, even though it was just around the house with a broom girl at a party with her friends, she was gonna be on the dance floor. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So you take that a step further and say, oh, my child likes to dance. Let me put them in community with dancers, right? So that's pretty much how I first came into this. I was exposed it in many different ways, professionally, spiritually, performance wise as well. But my favorite is spiritually, because it's just another element that I really think is the crust of dance movement therapy, right? You know, we talk always about, you know, spirituality, you know, just us as homegirls, and how we getting through, and how that has even changed over, you know, the course of our lives, you know, the things that were ingrained in us versus what we actually do. So with that being said, like, spirituality along with movement, like moving in spirit, has definitely just elevated my life in so many different ways. And even recently, 3 years ago, I lost my mom. Well, my mother transitioned, right? So it was just really, really challenging, um, because, like you were saying, policing shows up in every part of a Black person's life, right?
Yes.
And Black people specifically, we heal in a very moving type of way. You know, my thesis was very hood because I did it on the New Orleans Second Line, and its connections, right, and its connections to the Igbo mourning ritual that is still practiced in Nigeria. So it is literally the same across the board, across the African diaspora. We heal in movement. We heal in community, and that has just been the basis of my life.
I want you
Even
to I want you to break this down, because I think you mentioned some very important pieces, and I want us to kind of dive into this a little bit deeper. So for the listeners who, of course, you all know that I'm from New Orleans. Ashley is also from New Orleans. We went to the same all Black, all girl Catholic high school, and being in New Orleans, growing up in that tradition, going to a second line and being a part of second line is something that is automatic. God bless you. It's something that's automatically built into our culture, right? But for the listeners who are unfamiliar with that, and you also mentioned your thesis, and so what were you studying? What's your degree in?
Masters of Science in Dance Movement Therapy.
Absolutely. Come on, Black women. So I want you to break down for the audience kind of what is a second line, right? How is that embedded into our our healing at funerals, right? What does that look like? Because this is something very unique to New Orleans, right? And so can you give us a little bit of a history of what that is, and how we have continued to practice that?
Okay, so first of all, the second line is something very, very spiritual, but spiritually fun, spiritually cleansing. Um, yeah, it's just a beautiful practice. So basically, the second line is the crew that's behind the first line. So at
Yes.
funerals, we would have a New Orleans jazz band that'll probably show up. We have what's called a dirge, which is a slow expression of what's going on. So even in movement therapy, those pattern body connections that we talk about, this is when like we acknowledge what or notice what we are inclined to do. And when we mourn someone, yeah, we do slow down. There's that initial shock. There's that initial like, man, you know, you kind of time kind of slows down, right? So in those moments, you accept what you are doing. So that's what the dirge is about. And then there's the upbeat music, because it's almost as if, well, not almost as if, but this is what's going on. So let me make sure I got this correctly. And so if we're talking about pattern body connections, if the goal is to get back to life, to get back, or even create a new normal without that person, it has to begin in the body, right? So you will go back to your joyous state, your upbeat self. You know what I'm saying? You were really cut up for that person and in that person's memory. Because yeah, we're gonna take a moment to acknowledge this person, but at some point, you know, we gotta understand that this is actually a celebration.
A celebration of life,
Right.
yes.
A celebration of life, because it's also attached to African traditional religions, right?
Yes.
Which has the thought, is really the underbelly of it, is that we come to this earth, we choose this life that we live, but also we are born over and over again through our children. Yes. Our ancestors are born over and over again through us, right? You know, that's real flesh and blood, right? And even just body patterning. So it's almost like this cyclical thing that the soul goes through to be washed over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying?
Which is kind of why we use the language transition, right? Because I'm transitioning to another phase of this eternal cycle, right? I'm just transitioning over. And, you know, so I want to break that down. The reason why is for people, you know, if you didn't catch that, it's called a second line because the first line is typically the body in the casket and the family members. So if you were able to, if you've never been to a second line, if you were able to visually imagine that, you know, in a traditional funeral, when you are to leave the church or the resting place burial, the casket is the first thing that goes out of the ceremony, and usually is whoever's holding the casket and the family members are right there. How we define that is the first line of people that are ushering and carrying that person out. And what Ashley just elaborated on is that the history of the name second line is the all of the crew and the celebration of their life. Like that starts off, right? You might hear the mourning part in the first piece with the first line of family. So you might hear more of the somber. So when we think about New Orleans, we also think about the history of jazz, right? And the music that is associated with New Orleans and a second line. So the first part of that brass band is more of your trombones, right? More of your deeper, somber pieces of instruments. And then when that second line, you mentioned that upbeat starts happening, it's like, okay, we have honored this phase for this person that we love so much. And so now, because we have in that first part, we've honored their life. Now in the second part, we're going to celebrate and uplift them so that we have a more upbeat music. So then you hear your drums and your trumpets, and you start hearing your what am I thinking of?
Yeah, you're right. Tambourines.
Tambourines, all
We're
of that.
taking it to the streets,
We are
baby.
taking it to the streets. And so that, you know, that history is really important, because here we are talking about grief, right? We are talking about something that as a society we have been socialized to believe is just one of the most difficult emotions for us to process, right? We are socialized to believe that we get stuck in that, right? And what you are introducing to the audience is this idea that even in our perceived darkest moments, right, There is an ability to move the energy in our bodies as a form of healing. And so I want you to kind of go back to that place, because the loss of a parent is a huge thing, right? That, growing up, this is our first line of relationships. This is our first attachments. This is our first connections of how we're supposed to move around in the world, how we're supposed to interact with people. This is what we know, right? And and that was a hard one for me, because I couldn't, when people that we love and that we're close to lose people that we've always known and associated with them, having been friends for so long, you try to put you try to empathize and put yourself in that place and think about how that would be impactful for you. And it's hard to digest that. So how was dance a pivotal moment for you, and as such a loss, right?
Yeah. So what I had to learn to do was use dance differently, because we're not taught this as well. So if, like I said, the basis of it is dance is body patterning, right? So how do we truly get to know ourselves and our own movement patterns if we're constantly thrown and thrusted into choreography? Think about it. In order to make it as a dancer, is how well you fit into someone else's aesthetic,
Yes.
right? Professional teams, professional performance, music videos, girl, I did it all. And that's exactly what it is. Sometimes they don't even see you dance. They choose from some pictures. Let's get her,
and we're
her.
talking about
All right.
appearance of hair and skin color and skin tone, and especially body type, right? Especially body type. And as Black women, we don't match into the idea of the European standard of what a dancer looks like.
Exactly. Exactly. So, returning to, patterns and body patterns, is really important that you get to know the self, because memories and feelings from early pleasure and trauma can show up through movement, right?
Yes.
So it's very important that we have these dance movement spaces, because it gives you the opportunity to be intentional with your movement, right? Right. So the first thing I said that we basically want to practice or begin is that you have to be willing to come to this space and change body patterns. And every day that looks different. Some days, I've been in dance sessions, and we start out in one thing. We walking through a forest, and sometimes it's some kind of like guided words that go with it, and that has totally brought someone back into a childhood memory, or and sometimes you spend a lot of times like just getting that person back to the space and back to the present, because that's how powerful movement is. So it's very important that we have these containers to basically allow people to express whatever comes up, right? So you notice initially what you are inclined to do or what you are already doing. And that may be if you hear music, guided meditation, or you are just in your own silence, right? Next thing you want to do is accept what you are doing and how it serves you, right? And sometimes that is very, very difficult to do, especially when you are a trained dancer, because you're constantly in comparison with the other people that are in the room with you, right?
Yes.
So you never you really get a chance to accept, like, okay, well, my leg doesn't go as high as hers, or my elbow is not where it needs to be, right? So in order for there to be a therapeutic safe container, you have to accept what you are doing and how it serves you and how it serves your body. Next, you want to know what it is you want to do and what is your intent. So this is when you begin to embody your own power, right? To make your own decisions, because it's all about choice. That's all we've been arguing about this entire time. It's choice.
Yes.
I just want to choose, right? So clarify your intent. That's the next thing that you want to do. Use imagery to help you do that. Are you walking through a forest? Are you walking down Canal Street? Where are you going? Let your whole body be involved. There are sometimes the Bartenius fundamentals. A part of it is moving specific moving specific parts of the body, like the upper part versus the lower part, or being able to move cross laterally, or being able to fold completely over, or knowing the difference between, the right side versus the left side.
Yes.
Like, that's also how you are able to diagnose maybe some challenges within people.
And blockages, because you mentioned something really important as you kind of guide us through how dance processes can be healing. What you're tapping into is that, and you said this, like, and I don't, for all of my listeners, I'm sure you have heard me mention this before, but there's a very, very, one of my favorite books is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how trauma is stored in our body, right? And so what you're talking about is like, yes, we can acknowledge that this trauma and this pain and this grief may be stored in our body, but how do we go about moving it out of where it's stuck? And what you're identifying is kind of like a lot of mindfulness practice, right? In psychology, we refer to mindfulness, and even just that self-awareness, because we talk a lot about the noise, right? What the barriers that get in the way, right? And so, one of the things that you mentioned is like, this could be something, a guided meditation, a guided movement practice, but it also can be silence, right? And being able to give yourself permission to figure out where is that blockage, where is, and I know that you also do some work with crystals and chakras, and how how do you help other people identify like where those blockages are, where those stuck points are in our body that we might need a little bit more movement in?
Well, see, that's the thing. Our trauma can be so slick, because let me tell you something, you'll slip right back into those patterns and not even notice it until you're on the other side of it, right? So, that's the beauty in all of this. You have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself time and many different situations to practice a new pattern.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight, but you must practice, right? So that looks like putting it on the body. That looks like saying no. It can be something so simple. It looks like saying no. It looks like saying, I don't have space for that, right? And that could be even a movement. Just when I said that, I don't have space for that.
Yes. Yes.
Practicing new body patterns, and we know black women, honey.
We gonna do a turning of the neck. We gonna do a hand motion or something.
Hand reach.
So that expression, right? And Ashley, I think it's interesting, kind of like even in that connection, because one of the things that I try to bring into my clinical practice is that like that self-awareness piece, and like trusting yourself again and listening to yourself again. And sometimes you may be moving and you might say, that's like a little pain in my right hip, right? Or there's a little or I've been noticing that I've been having, digestive issues. I've been noticing that I've been having, my ankle is bothering me in that way, right? And I think that self-awareness piece is like, maybe your body is trying to tell you that something is being stuck there, or something is being held in there, and we need to figure out how to move that through.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, what's really important that we remember is the body is the container for it all. The body is going to hold it all, but we just have to learn how to sit still sometimes and really, really tune into what our body is telling us.
Yes.
Whether it be mentally, and also to not be judgmental about it. The first people we judge are ourselves.
Amen.
And we judge ourselves the harshest as well. But we have to learn how to give yourself some time to learn your body, to accept your body, to be intentional with your body, to be able to tune into your body. It doesn't happen overnight. And most importantly, you have to remember that all of this is a process. Movement is a process. And it's very reflected to that interconnectivity and outer expressivity, right? So whatever is going on within is definitely going to show up without, right?
Yeah, and I think as we talk to the body, it makes me think of kind of just the toxic and negative relationship that, especially as Black women, that we have had with our bodies for so long, right? Historically being shamed to, and confused on even knowing what is acceptable when it comes to our body, when it comes to people having access to our bodies, when it comes to what we wear, when it comes to how we move our body, right? Even when we think about dancing, like there was this whole, movement of twerking that has happened within the last 10 years. And I remember when that first came happen, I'm like, we've been popping on our heads since the 99s and the 2000s in New Orleans. So how is it now a fad when white women, have come up with, oh, well, I'm moving my butt in this way. And so it's not sexualized. And now I can create this twerking fad. Like, this is something that has been stolen from Black women historically. And so it makes me think of two different terms that, when you were speaking, there's kind of this distinction between body positivity and body liberation. When I say those two words, kind of what do you think of some of the differences and similarities that come up with that?
Let's see. So, body positivity, for me, would be the acceptance of what and who you are, right? I was talking with a friend last night about the ego and the different parts of the ego and what is there for. Is it something that you want? Is it something that you need? So he gave the analogy of, so why is it that negative energy is so potent, but I think it was in positive energy, like it just takes more for it to build up. And I was just like, well, yeah, that would absolutely make sense because it really is just dependent upon where you're vibrating at. So basically, what you're feeding yourself every day, what you're putting in your body, do you move? What are you doing? You doing push-ups, or what are you doing every day to show that you love yourself, right? Because the ego is more so about the self-esteem and how you feel about self, right?
Yes.
We got the three parts of it. One is instincts, one is, well, what do I really want to do? What do I need to do? What should I do? But I say all that to say this: your self-esteem is most important, and what you tell yourself every day is what's most important, right? We can't continue to operate and let people project their low vibrational, their own bruised egos onto us, right? We have to be able to be in control of our emotional centers, of our ego centers, of our body centers, that comes with being able, the ability to make choices, and actively, changing relationships in order to not necessarily just protect us or become hardened, but to really, really be able to express that inner freely.
Yes. So it sounds like the body positivity part is the way you're describing it is more of like that acceptance, and that, and then how does that shift or transition into body liberation, right? Because when I hear body liberation, for me that feels more like of not just the acceptance, but the acceptance and the non-judgment. Right? The non-judgment that, yes, I can be positive. I can allow myself to be positive in all of the different stages and the phases of my body. But I don't want to just be positive. I want to elevate, right? I want to thrive. So what does it look like for me to liberate myself from all of the messages that I have received about my body, that I have been told that I have to digest in my body? So how can I use that as an extra step on top of body positivity? What you think about that?
I would think it's all about a shift in perspective. To be a Black woman is to know that everybody got something to say. To be a Black woman also means knowing that, yeah, some ugly things that I go through, but my healing is beautiful. And people want to watch it, they want to consume it, and they want to learn it.
Listen.
Right. So to know all of these things is to know that how I move affects my environment. How I move affects my environment. So I feel like when you lead with that and you enter into your environment, that's just more positive juice, I would say, that you add on to, and more just to build up, like I said, that self-esteem, and just to really know that you are liberated. You know what I'm saying? Like, the liberation is literally in the hate that you get. You know what I'm saying? Aside from, the laws and the things that are put in our bodies, it's really us that affects the weather. We literally reflect the moon.
Yes.
We go through a moon cycle. Every, women with wombs, they go through a moon cycle. So with that being said, when you know that, that's true liberation to me.
And that it makes me lean into kind of the next part of the conversation I want to shift into is this sensuality, right? So you have started an extra component of dance of like moving into a sensual space and moving into a sexual expression with burlesque dancing. How did you get into that, and how has that added and contributed to your body liberation?
Yeah, so I really wanted to do something to honor myself. Grief is one of those things that you go through, and it's a part of your life, period. And I think there's a lot of acceptance that comes along with this process. Just accepting that this is something that I'm going to experience, but also accepting the fact that you need to create new normals for yourself. And one of my new normals was honoring myself. Doing a lot of inner child healing, I realized there were ways in which, my mother had to sacrifice honoring herself in order to keep the kids, keep the house, this, and to do this just shit. You know what I'm saying? Just everyday shit. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that made not only other people feel good, but for them to see what I feel on the inside of me, right? So it's been amazing to share with people my sensuality that absolutely comes from within.
Yes.
And just really knowing like how I make someone feel after a performance. You know what I'm saying? Like,
how do you get to that?
Something.
How do you get to that place of, not just honoring yourself and accepting that sensuality, but being able to like display that in a way that, we have been, because we receive very similar messages about respectability politics and about what what a respectable woman does and how that really has affected, our relationship when it comes to our bodies, our pleasure, our sexual autonomy. And I'm wondering if there was a struggle at all, or you completely released yourself from that when it came to, oh, I'm on a stage, right? I'm exposing, different intimate parts of myself and taking, pieces of clothing off in a way that I have historically been told and shamed, because we have historically been shamed about our bodies in that way. So what was that like for you?
So my process throughout this time and just rebuilding me and like reconstructing me, God danced a lot in the mirror. I'm not gonna lie to you. I dance naked in the mirror all the time. That is my out of the shower, begin my day. That is my out of the shower in my, you know what I'm saying, rest for the night. I'm gonna give myself a little two-step, just an appreciation. And it's not like, oh, let me go dance in the mirror. It's literally, that's just what I do, Even before I decided to do it on stage, there was just a strong appreciation that I had for my body at all of the sizes that I was, because I've been many sizes, right? So, that has just been a thing to just be grateful for the body that I have, all of the processes that's going on when I'm not even conscious about it, consciously grateful for my breath, because that is life and that is spirit. So, just exploring those things, read books about the Tao, so it came to me in just so many ways. Now, this is also where like the ego kicks into, because I'm not going to say I'm without, criticism. I can always do things a little bit better, but that's the healthy balance. Like,
Yes.
oh, Ashley, girl, you gotta get back on your yoga, girl. The leg to get up as high this time. You know what I'm
Come
saying?
on, little
Like,
leg.
okay, baby, that leg look a little tight around the hamstring, baby. You need to stretch that out, right? So it's just a balance between all of those things. Just having a healthy forward motion view of the self, and
Yes.
realizing that, girl, I'm gonna just get better and better and better, because this really is a journey. There really is like no destination
Yes.
in mind.
Yes.
It's just I'm traveling through, honey, and whatever makes me feel juicy, honey, it makes me feel juicy, right?
And it's also really therapeutic. Like, you're actually talking about a real life therapy that I incorporate in my clinical practice, especially when it comes to trauma, right? Because the interesting thing about trauma, especially sexual trauma, is that there's more power that has been taken away from us when it comes to our body. And so we have to regain a sense of sexual autonomy, and we have to regain a sense of trust of ourselves and our instincts. And so that requires a lot of times a lot of mirror work, right? And mirror work is affirming and healing in so many different stages and process. And you mentioned, like that being a part of the ebbs and flows, right? Like at in any size, the huge pieces that acceptance and non-judgmental of, like, I'm going to take this time and I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to be fully naked and I'm going to allow myself to be in this space with myself in a way that I'm rebuilding this relationship with myself, right? And how essential that is when we're talking about healing, right? When you were speaking, it spoke to me because a couple years ago, well, I guess that was in 2020, like, I lost about 70 pounds. And I remember having to really retrain myself to look in the mirror, right? And so I had to, because I was so used to always just being the cute face. I was only looking at my face in the mirror. I was not looking at my body. And so I had to start retraining myself and stopping when I saw a mirror and really allow myself a full body scan. Okay, this is what I'm noticing. This is what's changing. This is what's coming up for me. How am I feeling, right? That was a very emotional process for me, right? And I remember saying, okay, I'm going to take it a step further because I want to honor myself and my body in this process. So I started buying myself a lot of lingerie, right? And rebuilding the central relationship with myself, and being able to say, you know what, this is a part of me that I have turned off for so long. What is it going to look like for me to shift in that perspective? What is it going to look like for me to take photos of myself for me, right? To build this relationship again with myself that I may not have ever had. And so it sounds like, stepping into the sunshine, stepping on that stage and, and allowing burlesque to be that elevated stage of healing for you was just that, like this elevation of this liberation that you say that this has been a practice for me for a while, but this was also me saying, like, I'm not just practicing this with myself, but I'm also in community.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think about it this way: there are so many sisters who are just not tapped into the power of what they got, girl. And it's just like, honeys, if you only knew like what you got, what you can do with it, like the specialness of just being able just to flirt with your eyes. Like, I dated an older man recently, and he was just like, what y'all doing is beautiful, because like you don't even have to take off everything. And like I'm turned on, I'm aroused, like, the hairs are standing up on the back of my arm, and it's just like, yeah, that's what I feel on the inside when I hear the Isley Brothers voice to Atlantis playing
Come
behind.
on, Isley.
Okay, okay. So you know what I'm saying? So, it's very, very important, because you really just get a crash course in energy exchange.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And as a performer, a dance therapist, it's really, really just me kind of like riding this line of spreading positive energy, that interconnectivity and outer expressivity, just making sure that, whenever I'm in community, I'm giving y'all something good. You know what I'm saying? Something you're going to take home and maybe turn it into some kind of creative energy, because that's what that is too, right? It's all creative energy, it's all feminine energy. So, getting to the point where, like, yeah, I'm in community, and you know what? This is what I want to sprinkle up in here. This is a little sensuality, because I've cultivated so much within myself, I can share.
And what you're talking about is this, not only just this exchange of energy, but this is a gift, right? Well, you're saying, because so often we talk about, refilling our cup in order to be able to pour into others. And what you're saying is like, I have channeled and poured into myself and refocused my energy into myself in a way that I'm able to allow myself to pour into others. And it's not taken away from me. I'm not depleted after that. It's not exhausting me, because I have prioritized my healing and my pleasure and my journey in a way that I can say, here you go, sugar. Right? I can say, here you go. I'm going to share a little bit of what I have in my overflow, because I've been so intentional. And I think that is that is huge, right? That is so powerful. And, and it made me think about all of the other ways that, you have been led creatively. So Ashley's also an artist. She's also, a crafter. For those of y'all who are watching, I have on my favorite pair of earrings.
Ow.
From the Moni Rose collection. Ashley, can you share with us some other pieces of, creative expression that you have been led through in this healing journey?
Yeah, so one specifically that I tapped into was jewelry making, and this was before my mother passed, and it continued after she transitioned. It was just something really, really special that we did together. She loved to do it. My mother was a student of YouTube University, baby.
Hello.
And and that's just something so important to realize, that of course our parents are people too, but I just want to say that I'm just so, so grateful and appreciative that I had the kind of mother that I had, because whatever she poured into herself, she definitely poured into myself and my sister and anybody around her. So she would get there with me, and she would definitely just stick there with me and be like, okay, well, this is how you're supposed to do this, and this is how you're supposed to do that. And I'm just such a radical, all over the place creator. Sometimes I don't even really like to use the patterns or like to look it up. I just kind of like to flow in my little energy or whatever. So, it's just really, really just been a beautiful thing to get back to that structure too, and those pattern body movements that we talked about with working with our hands, and being able to just access that inner juiciness on so many different levels, right? So, jewelry making has definitely been one of those things. And even just being a New Orleanian, period, I just feel like when you from New Orleans, you can do something.
So listen, because you
Even if you
had
got an
to.
education, like you got 1,000 side hustles.
You
Like,
have a
girl,
1,000 side hustles. I'm telling you, like, it's one of those things that people be like, oh, you could cook, and you could do podcasts, and you can, draw, and you
do
can
hair.
and you could do hair. Okay,
Yeah.
like you
Yes.
gotta do something. You could do
Yeah.
that. Ain't a lie,
Yeah.
Lord.
Like if you from New Orleans, like you are just bubbling over with creative energy, right? So it's very important to know the self and get to know the self, because you see that aside from everything that's going on in the world that may not reflect what we got going on the inside, the things that may hurt us and cause trauma, we have already been given very, very special ways that are literally ingrained in our DNA to help us shift that out of the body. We can do it in multiple ways. It could even be singing, working with your throat chakra.
Yes.
It could be through Reiki. It could be through what's the thing with the needles, acupuncture. You know, there are so many ancient ways. It can even just when you are a musician, like, you know, healing, music therapy is also a thing as well. Of course, professionals know that, you know, but it's so important to even know, like, the first piano, the first guitar, like, those things were actually used as healing instruments that people actually laid on the body. That's why the guitar is shaped like a body. It was laid on the body.
Come on, knowledge. Never knew that.
Yeah, and whatever frequency, you know, because our African folks, it was just ahead of the time, girl.
Yes,
Like,
they were.
you know, they knew everything about astronomy and everything
That's
else.
why the damn colonizers took everything, because
exactly.
the knowledge ran deep.
Exactly. So it's just like, you know, we're tuning those different frequencies and putting it on the body. That is literally stirring something up within you.
Yes.
You know, there's a reason why, girl, we love an 808. You know, that's directly to the sacral chakra. Like, that's literally, you can feel it in your feet. You know, but if you hear a little Minnie Riperton and then she on there whistling or something, it's more in your heart. Like, girl, I love you too, Minnie Riperton, with your light, pretty, soft voice. Like, you know what I'm saying, right? So once again, it's just always that relationship about your environment and the self, what you're getting out, but also what you're putting in. You know, because that's really, really, you know, what you just not one of the only things that you can control. But yeah, you control it, can control it in a certain respect, but not everything. You can't necessarily control everything, but you can be mindful of what you're putting out into other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that intention is not only healing, but is elevating and is powerful, you know. And it seems like all of the work and the intentional work that you have put into yourself through this journey has been opening doors in a way that I don't know if you envision or imagine. I mean, y'all, I woke up the other weekend and Ashley was on goddamn Jimmy Fallon with Taking a Bag, because I said, now, how the fuck did Ashley get on Jimmy Fallon? How are these doors opening up for you? What does that process feel like?
Man, to me, it's all about relationship, T. It's all about relationship. And then, you know, as you know, we went to the illustrious Xavier University Preparatory High School.
Come on, somebody.
Okay? In which our names are still on plaques and gold.
Come on, somebody.
You know, but being connected to our high school sisters has really been a blessing. You know, there's Jazz Johnson, the twerk NoLa. She's amazing. Then she's connected with some people at NOCA, and they ended up being professional dancers. You had mine, you got Gabby, you got the Boomies. You know, you have all of these amazing women that have just formed a network, right? So, you know, and that's just something that's so amazing about Black women, because when we eat, everybody eat.
Yes.
You understand? You know, we literally bring and raise everything up around us. We elevate it all. You know, we're in community together. Like, the better part of us always shines through, because we want to see our brothers and sisters make it too. You know, so for me, it's always been about maintaining those relationships through the ups and downs, being able to communicate effectively, and also doing what is needed on a daily basis to show up as the best you. And that's going to look different every day. Some days you ain't going to feel like it. Some days you ain't really going to be motivated. But when you have a love of self, you have discipline, you know. So being disciplined in your daily practice definitely is going to assist in maintaining those relationships, because your brothers and sisters, your siblings see that I know Ashley is going to show up.
And we're not talking about showing up for no small names. We talking about J. Cole. We talking about Drake. We talking about Freedom. We talking about Tank and the Bangers. We talking about hitters, right?
Yeah, heavy hitters, yeah.
Heavy hitters where you have been able to use your gifts, use your passion to be in those spaces, right? That's amazing. And that's, and it's just the beginning, right?
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
this is just the beginning.
Yeah, so it's even amazing just to look back and, girl, how we thought that we'd be old by this age, and it's just like, girl, life is just getting
It
started.
is just getting started.
Girl, what you
Listen,
mean?
listen, I am okay accepting that we are the TDs now, okay? And that
Okay.
I was explaining to Ash, I said, Lord, the babies then made me shift over onto the tickety talk and to the
Okay.
YouTube. So if y'all are listening, go ahead and check us out, okay? Because the effort is there, okay? We are
Okay.
trying to build, we are trying to grow, we're trying to expand. And so this has just been such a gift. And this is, the time in the show where we're going to transition into our Black Jezebel moment. And this is an opportunity where we reflect on a moment where we have felt really liberated from those messages that we have received, really being able to stand in our true power. And so, Ashley, I want to ask if you have a Black Jezebel moment, and it's always related to the show. So today we're talking about really just healing in the body and movement in the way that is historically innate to us as Black women. Do you have a Black Jezebel moment you like to share with the people?
I must say this. I'm gonna leave it at this. You have to be willing to actively participate in changing patterns of relationships, both within yourself and realizing the interrelationships that you have between yourself and the world. Feed yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
By all means, feed yourself first and worry about the world later. Um, Take in as much as you need for you without your own judgment and without anybody else's. Um, yeah. And just keep moving. Don't stop moving. Don't stop moving.
Where is the moment where you felt for yourself like, I'm really doing this?
I would say really, really long ago. It had to be when I was maybe about 16 or 17. My family had just found out that I was a queer lady. And I had stopped dancing for the year, and that was the worst decision I ever made, to take a break from dancing. I missed it so much. I wasn't going to dancing school. There was a lot that I was not doing, and I really suffered a lot as a teenager from that, just acting out and just doing crazy stuff. So for me, that's when I knew that I never wanted to be outside of a dance room. I never wanted to not move anymore. Yeah, I just knew then I want to be a dancer and this is what I want to do. And ever since then, because as we grow in phases, life is definitely not linear. But what has definitely happened for me is that along this journey, I've realized the gift that dance is. Dancing is such a gift because just like everything that African folks do, honey, it has a purpose. It has a different meaning. And it is a beautiful ancient technology to be a part of.
Yes.
It is really amazing, truly amazing to be in this skin, to be in this lifetime, to experience people like you, and also to experience myself, So that's when I knew what I wanted to do.
Amen. I think that, when I think about a Black Jezebel moment for me as it relates to kind of just movement in the body and healing, I think about kind of just the process of releasing myself from the pressure to have to move in a certain way. It must have been, a week or so ago because, when you're in transition, I just moved to Dallas, and I'm trying to get into a routine and starting with clients back again and building up my caseload. So I have a lot more time now than I was expecting. And so I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself. And so I've been feeling a lot of stagnant in my body. And so I kept, I keep telling, myself that, okay, well, I need to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. I need to get back onto a workout routine. And I just got up from the couch and I was like, I'm just going to move my body. And I just started moving my body and moving the energy from my body. And I had to just realize that, like, this movement counts too, right? I think it was the other day, I was like, I don't have any clients today. I'm just going to go to the pool. I'm only going to do 2 or 4 laps, but that movement counts, right? So allowing myself and giving myself permission that me moving my body doesn't have to look like I'm going to the gym every day, because that's never probably going to be my narrative. But being able to accept that, any movement and any disruption of the stagnant energy is also a part of that narrative and a part of that healing. And so that makes me think of that Black Jezebel moment. So, I mean, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today. This has been just a beautiful, lively, healing, restorative conversation for me, and I'm sure our listeners have been enriched and fed as well. Ashley, can you share with the people how can they get connected to you? Do you have any upcoming shows coming up? Where do you perform? Let's just lay it out, because I know people are going to be trying to follow you, get your jewelry. What does that look like?
All right. So first of all, you can definitely follow me on Instagram at Ashmoni. That is my personal page. I update it the most. And I mean, I just have really nice pictures of my art. So just go look at it. Then there's Moni Rose. That is MONII_Rose. On Instagram as well. And as jewelry, you can hit me up for a plethora of things: bracelets, waist beads, garter chains for your thigh, girl, whatever you want, whatever tickles your fancy, hit me up. And you can also contact me at the Black Healing Journey, which is the Black Healing Journey, all one word, on Instagram as well. A website coming soon, the Black Healing Journey series coming soon.
Okay, now.
And also, I am Sunshine the Soul Tree. And I know this is a lot. I'm unloading a lot. But yeah, follow me on Instagram at Sunshine the Soul Tree. I will be performing next August 19th for Juno's Cabaret.
And this is a show where in New Orleans?
At the Always Lounge.
Okay, at the Always Lounge. Now, I haven't been, so I'm gonna have to come to a show, because listen,
yes, girl. Come get your blessing, baby.
Listen, I'm gonna have to get my blessing, and I want to experiment with the little cabaret. Okay, I want to get on the stage and move a little something. Okay, because we all have a gift to give. So
for real. Baby, you gotta move up in your spirit. Come on. Okay, come as you are.
Listen.
And I also am teaching Sensual sessions on Saturday at the Broadmoor Center here in New Orleans as well for the entire month of August. So come on and see me, baby. Let's get some healing popping.
Yes, I'm so excited for that. And and you're gonna have to apply to come down to Sex Down South next year, because there is, it's a plethora of different types of workshops. I think someone is actually doing a body movement healing session, but we're gonna have to get y'all connected. Y'all, if you have not registered for Sex Down South yet, definitely go to Sex Down South and register with the code Jezebel for $20 off. I will be presenting a workshop, and I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to all of the Black and brown healers and all of the sexual liberations and the conversations, and just the energy is just so good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing y'all. I'm also going to be doing a full weekend video log or vlog, whatever the kids say. So we're going to be able to bring you into the atmosphere, the energy, and so you can get a little snippet of all of this excitement that I've been talking about. So I'm excited about that. So I will have all of Ashley's links in the show notes for you to be able to connect with her. Thank you again, Ashley, so much for joining us today. This has been just a treat. Just such a joy. And for all the listeners, don't forget to follow me. I am your host, Dr. TemaraToday. That is TEMARA Today. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, the YouTube, all of the things. And until next time, bye, y'all.
Peace.
Yay!